No judgment, just real talk. This is the Apology Accepted podcast. The views expressed on the Apology Accepted podcast are those of the host and guest and do not reflect the views of any affiliate organization or individual. The content is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. For personal, legal, or emotional matters, please consult a qualified professional. By continuing to listen to this podcast, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Hey friends, welcome back to the Apology Accepted podcast, the space where we dive into real conversations about healing, growth, and creating the life we deserve. I am your host, LaTesha Monique, and I am so grateful to have you tune in to this week's episode. Cultivating patience in healing. I want us to lean into the truth that healing doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like standing still, circling back, or simply holding on. In this episode, I share why being patient with ourselves is one of the most powerful parts of the healing journey. I am going to talk about what it means to honor your timeline, release unrealistic expectations, and give yourself grace when growth feels slow. Healing isn't perfect, but it's still happening. Stillness isn't stagnation. Sometimes healing looks like standing still, not making moves, not having breakthroughs, just simply surviving the day. That doesn't mean you're stuck. It means, let's get creative. Your soul is resting. I like that. Your soul is resting and it's processing or protecting itself. It doesn't necessarily mean you are being stagnant. And I know I learned that the hard way. I always thought okay, stillness means I'm not working. I'm not doing anything. I don't feel like no moves are being made. I'm not having any type of success with breakthroughs. What is happening? Get me out of this stillness, because I equated stillness to stagnant. So you didn't journal this week. And y'all know I always talk about journaling. So you didn't journal this week. You didn't do deep self work. But you made it through the week without shutting down or exploding. That's still healing, even though you didn't do your journaling. See, it's not that you were stagnant. You was just still in this moment. The stillness is what you needed. For me, I don't even know if y'all noticed, but last week I did not upload an episode. And I was just still in this moment. Not that I didn't think about it. Not that I didn't write out some ideas and some things that I want to talk about. It's just that I wanted to be still in that moment because I kind of pivoted with my topic. So it didn't mean that I was stagnant or I came to a point where I'm just stopping, but I did have my moment of stillness. And it's okay, because stillness, even in the process of you being still, you are still healing. You are resting. It's not so much as healing means you gotta be doing all of these things in order to think that you are healing properly. Some people might say, oh, I got a journal, of course. I have to journal. I have to go to therapy. I have to do my meditation. Like, yes, all of these things are great. So don't get me wrong. All of these things are great. However, if one is missing or if one goes out of order, it's not the end of the world. Do not beat yourself up with not staying in the order in which you gave yourself. Because I know I do. Sometimes I see my day in my mind. So I know everything that I have to do in my mind. I can see it. Boom, back, 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 back. And sometimes when things get out of order, I go into a little panic because I'm like, whoa, wait, I didn't do this. And I need to do this before I do that. And now my day is shuffled and I'm just like off balance. But that's me. And I used to get down on myself about that with saying, okay, the day has went by and I wasn't able to do this or that. And I become really hard on myself where things start piling up and I can't get to everything. And so I feel like no moves are being made. I'm not able to complete things. I'm not able to see any breakthroughs with accomplishing what I've set out to accomplish. And for me, I'll take school for example. I am still in school. I have 2 more semesters to go, which I am finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel with that. But when it came down to school, I was not always able to get financial aid and Pell Grant, with Pell Grants. Now, I was able to get all kinds of loans, but I opted not to do that. And so a lot of times when I went to school, I had to pay out of pocket. And so when I didn't have the money to pay, I didn't go. So that was my stillness, saying, okay, I don't have the funds to pay for this semester. I will work on some stuff, try to rearrange some stuff. Next semester, I can take a class or 2 or 3, whatever I can afford. But it wasn't me stopping. It was just I had to get things in place to be able to, quote and unquote, rest my soul, to process everything that I needed to do to make sure I can do the classes for the next time. So this has been a long, drawn out school process, but I haven't quit. Now, I've had long breaks in between, but I have not quit. And even during my long breaks, again, I was preparing for the return. Now, growth can feel like starting over, but it's not. It's not necessarily starting over. Healing often involves revisiting old spaces or feelings, and it can feel like you are regressing, but coming back to the same space with a new mindset or wellness is a sign of growth, not failure. Maybe you've cried over something you thought you were over. The difference now is that you didn't shame yourself for feeling the way you were feeling. You allowed your feelings to be present. That's emotional maturity, right? I spoke about this before in a previous episode where I mentioned how I thought I was healed from some childhood traumas. But then once I started talking about it more, when I decided to co-author in a book, Hold the Line. All of these emotions and feelings started coming back where I thought I was good. And the reason why I thought it is because it didn't hold space with me. Why? Because I didn't talk about it. I didn't have to. I kind of like, not kind of, I cut the cord with individuals so it wasn't in my presence. And for me, I thought, boom, problem solved. I probably should have did this a long time ago. But I realized that the problem was not solved, and I actually had to talk through those traumas and how it affected me. And so that's why I say the difference now is I don't shame myself for feeling the way I felt during the times. I allowed myself to be in my feeling, whether it was anger, sadness, or a little bit of both. I allowed myself because at first I was beating myself up on why do I feel like this? I should not feel like this. And that's when the anger took the better control, and I was like, okay, let me just cut folks off. And that's easier for me to deal. And what I realize is that sometimes you have to talk it through, speak on it, say it, mention it. And I'm not necessarily saying go around just, shouting to the rooftop what your trauma is, but definitely if you have a counselor, if you have a therapist, if you have a psychiatrist, like these are spaces where you share, you talk about these particular things. And for me, when I started therapy years ago, I really didn't hit the surface of talking about my trauma. It was more so me just expressing my feelings and then getting down to the nitty gritty of the traumas. And so now I am able to share my story in pieces or fully without having this overwhelming feeling of emotions, of sadness, of disappointment, of anger, because I see it differently now. I am able to allow myself to feel what I need to feel in the moment in no judgment. And so that's what we have to do sometimes. We have to allow ourselves to feel the emotions, because some of us grew up where we really had to hide our feelings. We couldn't really talk about how we felt. And that was my household. My mom was very, I'm not going to say strict, but she was definitely the mother that it was like, do as I say, the end. So it really won't no back and forth, no questioning, no really talking and communicating on the feelings that was happening in the household. And so I had to hold on to them. And then becoming an adult, I have all these feelings and emotions and really not knowing what to do with them. Like, where do I sit this? Where do I place all of this stuff that I'm carrying around daily? And so that's how we learn how to mask our feelings and just put it to the back until we think out of sight, out of mind. It's gone. Don't worry about it. When it's not gone, it's just over there somewhere. And you have not come to that point where you are now talking about it. And so we have to make sure that we show ourselves grace in our growth process, because our healing doesn't need a deadline. We tend to pressure ourselves to feel better by a certain point, as if healing has some type of expiration date. But emotional growth doesn't follow a calendar. It is not saying, okay, it's January 1 and your emotions need to be intact. No, emotional growth does not follow a calendar. Releasing the need to rush allows you to heal more deeply and authentically. You've made progress in therapy, but still get emotional when certain topics come up. That was me. Instead of feeling frustrated that you are, quote unquote, not over it, because I hate when people say that, girl, you grown now, get over it, that happened, whatever. Remind yourself that healing isn't about erasing emotions. It's about learning to carry them differently. And that's something that I had to learn to do. I had to learn how to carry the emotions differently. You're still moving forward, just at your own pace. And you might be a little heavy, you might not. But it's not about, hey, I'm healed and these emotions are gone. No, because guess what? One thing about trauma and having all of these emotions is that it never goes away. It will never go away. But you have to decide, how are you going to carry it? Are you going to always walk around in anger? Are you going to always walk around with all of these heavy emotions? You have to decide that. And that's why I say it's about learning how to carry it differently. You never know what the next person is going through. Some of us are able to carry some of our heavy stuff better than others. You know, some people are still in their process of healing, whether they're at the beginning or, they've been on this journey for years. It doesn't matter. Why? Because your healing doesn't need a deadline. You don't have to get to this finish line. You don't have to put the pressure on yourself to say, okay, I have to be maybe better by this time. No, because you don't know. You do not know how this journey of healing is going to take you, where it's going to take you, what it's going to bring out of you. Because I've learned that this journey has definitely brought stuff out of me where I look at things differently. I notice that I handle certain situations differently now. I'm still vocal, but it's not in that angry tone that I used to have. And so I notice my growth, and I can look back and see now that I'm operating a little clearer. I can see some of the mistakes I made, and I can see some of my wrong turns. And so now on this journey, I will forever be on this journey because I have no deadline. I am forever working on me to be better. Is no time limit for that. And this is where we have to show ourselves grace at. Because again, we have to cultivate the patience when it comes to healing. We need stillness. We need growth, and those things don't have time limits. For all the moms who may be listening, that automatic click that came to you with patience when you became a mom, and you had this little human, and this little human got older and went from infant stages to toddler stages to they walking and they getting into everything and they're moving stuff and they're breaking stuff and they spilling food on the floor. You had a lot of patience with your babies. That same patience we need to have for ourselves, because we have to understand that even though we're not babies, we have to understand that we are going to mess up. We are going to do things incorrectly or failed or, whatever the case may be. We're not perfect, so we're not going to even come close to getting everything right every day. So be patient with yourself. Understanding that it's okay to be patient with yourself. As we close today's episode, I hope you remember this. Just because your healing doesn't look the way you imagine, this glorified thing, because I know when I first started, I definitely imagined my healing looking differently than what it looked like now. Like, I imagine beaches and I imagine these retreats, and my imagination was big on what I was looking forward to as far as what I felt like the correct way to heal looks like. But anyway, just because your healing doesn't look the way you imagine doesn't mean it isn't real. Growth doesn't always feel like breakthrough. Sometimes it feels like simply surviving the day. So if you survive the day, give yourself a hand clap, a pat on the back, a look in the mirror like, you go girl, you did this. Because you have to be patient with your pace. You're allowed to take your time, to rest, and to heal in your own way. Thank you for tuning in to the Apology Accepted podcast. If this episode resonated with you, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel at the Apology Accepted podcast. Leave a review and share with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, give yourself grace, honor your process, seen or unseen, and keep going. You're doing better than you think. Thank you for tuning in to the Apology Accepted podcast. If this episode resonated with you, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, protect your peace and keep choosing yourself. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Apology Accepted podcast. I hope today's conversation sparked some growth for you. Be sure to subscribe and share with others who might need this reminder too. Until next time, you all, remember, healing starts with a simple apology. Take care.